The thing I always liked about Mike and respected about him was whether he started the game or whether he came in the game, like he came in guns a-blazing, no fear.
Yeah, the no fear thing has kind of bitten me in the butt a couple of times because when I go to Highmark, I'm sure there's going to be a piece of my rib on the 30-yard line. But I did see Ed. Ed came up and apologized to me. And no, my one condition for signing here was I just can't be locker mates with Matt Milano. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, honestly, the ribs are good. Ribs are good. 2 years later, we finally healed.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel presented by Connors and Ferris. Mike Catalana, Dan Fades here, Jenna Cottrell getting the Veteran Day off. We have plenty to talk about. But before we do, as always, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Share with your friends. Unsubscribe, then resubscribe. Podcast wherever. Tons more. Jenna couldn't believe that we were at 32,000 yesterday. I said, yeah, we've been
past that.
Yeah, she's like, I thought we were at 30.
She's got to pay more attention.
You know what? There are clips that prove that.
That's why she needed a Veterans Day off.
Yeah, just recharge, reset.
Yeah,
so
good for her.
Plenty of stuff to talk about. Especially, we want to talk about Josh Allen making more news, because if you're a network and need something to talk about, Josh Allen is a lightning rod to do that. Mike White has become an instant legend in Buffalo after being there for 12 hours. Wide receivers, we heard from Brandon Beane yesterday with the final roster cuts. And then obviously we also have the fact of, we have to talk about it again, Tyler Bass. And I think we have some interesting points on that.
We also have news on one of your favorites who's no longer a Buffalo Bill.
And he's at a new position.
And a new team.
So how about that? That's what we call a teaser in the business.
That's
all right,
it.
Let's start there right away, Mike, because ESPN comes out with another survey. They surveyed 103 players, and they said who's the best quarterback, who's the most overrated, who's the best trash talker, things like that. Josh Allen proudly takes the spot of number one trash talking quarterback. And then he was also number one for overrated. Now, before you think that like there's 103 players that they surveyed, it was 11. It was 11 players they surveyed. So this isn't like this is half of the NFL.
It was 11 that said.
11 that said he was overrated.
Yeah. Okay. I keep saying this. I think it's a dumb thing to say he's overrated.
It is very dumb.
He is the second best quarterback in the NFL. If you believe he's third, I mean, Burrow's been to a Super Bowl. Lamar's won 2 MVPs. If that's what you believe, I mean, come on. It's personal choice there. Second, third, whatever. Unless a lot of people were saying he's the number one quarterback. Well, it's tough to put him ahead of Mahomes. I think it's a dumb argument.
But I don't know who does that. That's what
I don't hear anybody say that.
This seems like it's the straw man argument almost of like, who's arguing against that Josh Allen is a really, really good quarterback.
Yeah. And you have the people who just constantly use this as an opportunity to take shots at Josh. Yeah. And it's kind of silly. We know what he is. A great player who hasn't gotten his team as far as they need to. So that's what.
But the perception bothers me because Lamar is viewed as this generational talent, which I can argue the same thing for Josh. I think they're both unbelievable. But you've said before, you don't need to prop up Mahomes by knocking down Allen.
No, you're not. That's Nick Wright's thing.
And I don't even.
Seriously, he did a whole bit on this.
But I don't even think that Bills fans believe that Allen is better than Mahomes. So how are you saying he's overrated? There is a criteria to be overrated because you have to be rated at some point. Jalen Hurts was number 2 in this survey that, again, we've probably now at this point talking about it for 2 minutes. We've given this too much airtime on Buffalo Plus. But the fact is, Jalen Hurts. But I didn't see Tua. I didn't see Dak. Yeah. Dak is ass. Like, I don't get where is jealousy in it. I just don't understand why this continues to come up, whether this is some grudge or what with Allen.
It's funny because in the player voting for 100 best players in the league, what did Josh finish? Like 13th?
13th.
And I know there's very talented players. And I know a lot of players don't want to just vote for the quarterback. First of all, how in the world in that list is Mahomes not number one?
Correct.
I mean, it's Mahomes. But so he has this, and now it's this overrated part. And does it tie into the trash talker? Does that bother people? I don't know. Is Jalen Ramsey voting 100 times?
Yeah.
What are we talking about here?
So Allen also tweeted in a perfect Josh Allen way of, I'm so proud to be number one at something, trash talking. And he went on, I think it was Adam Sheen, and he actually
Adam Shine.
And he talked about him yesterday. And this is what Josh had to say about being called overrated again.
What's your reaction to that poll, which I found to be absolutely absurd?
So my reaction is I'm not mad that 11 players not on my team don't like me, right? So that's number one. I actually think that's a term of endearment. When other players don't like me, that means I'm doing something the right way. I am mad at, however, I'm never, ever invited to participate in these anonymous surveys. So that's where I find this frustrating. I want to be a part of these surveys too and give my input as well.
So you were not asked to be part of this survey. You want to make sure you're part of these anonymous surveys.
Correct. Even if they are actual surveys going out, I would love to be a part of that. So hopefully I get the link to the next one.
You want to be invited to the anonymous player party when it comes to something like this. Now, Josh, you responded, you tweeted, and I thought it was perfect. It went noted. You know, and I've talked to players about Aaron Rodgers in the past, about things that motivate him. Patrick Mahomes will count off quarterbacks during games that were drafted ahead of him. Do you take this personally? Does that add to the motivation for this upcoming season? Because if I were you, yeah, I take this personally.
You know, I would love to say yes, it does motivate me, and I could put it on my locker and use it as bulletin board material. But the fact is, Adam, I'm going into year 7. I'm coming out of a small farm town called Fireball, California. I had no offers, went the junior college route, ended up having one offer, University of Wyoming, got drafted 7th overall by the Buffalo Bills. So, again, I'm in a spot where not many people, maybe me and my family, are the only people thought that I'd ever be here. So I'm going to keep running with that. It served me well, and I'm just going to keep playing football the way I know how to play it.
That is phenomenal.
Well done.
And then he said to Shine, how come I don't get a vote in this? I'll gladly be one of those anonymous players to tell you what I think. Let me tell you, not that he'll need it. Someday he will be doing his own podcast.
Yes.
As a post-career.
On the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel. It'll be a branch.
Why not?
We'll have the Josh Allen pod.
Yeah. We'll invite him to join us. But you're right. It's a lot of silliness, but you want a positive for it? That man pays attention to everything.
He knows everything.
And
he may not seem as active on social media as other people or players. We have heard he knows everything that everybody's saying. He sees everything, much like most players, I imagine, in the NFL.
No, they don't listen to anything.
But whether it's friends and families, we've heard that things get back to Josh.
He knows the dumb things the national people say. He knows the dumb things the local people say.
He does.
He's well aware.
Yeah. Going off of that, the new backup quarterback, or the third quarterback as of right now, Mike White.
Credit to me. Story came out the other day. The Bills had talked to him.
Yeah.
I tweeted, I would really like this move for the Bills. Half an hour later,
that's all it took?
It's all it took. I believe.
Was the Catalana seal of approval?
I said, Brandon, friend of Buffalo Plus Pod. I'm sure he's
been
watching.
at your house.
Yeah, he's been at my house.
It's a great thing.
He has been, yeah.
I've golfed with him, so we're best friends.
So
we're getting Christmas cards.
And I'm like, I like this Mike White. I'd like him on the Bills. 20 minutes later, Bills have signed him. I tried it with Noah Brown because I would have liked to have seen him.
Yeah.
But, I'm going to pick my spots.
1 out of 2.
The quarterback.
So, obviously, I was at practice yesterday, or we were both at practice yesterday. Mike White, it was kind of funny in the sense of he was starting to go through some of the quarterback drills that the Bills players have done since the start of training camp with Ronald Curry as the new quarterbacks coach. They've done new drills to warm up. It's when the players break off into individual groups. You've seen the videos of Josh throwing into nets. He goes side to side. They backpedal all these things. And Mike White had no idea what to do. And he kind of joked about the fact of, I felt like a rookie again. Like, I didn't even know where we were going, any of these things. Like, that's how quick this turnaround has been to get him here. It's partly because of the injuries.
Yep. What are they doing at Jets practice?
I don't know.
What are they doing at Dolphins practice? Aren't they practicing throwing the football?
Yeah, I guess it's just the way of the drills. But that I thought was funny. And then earlier in the day, you asked Beane about Mike White. And he talked about the fact that he loves that the guy had no fear. We then asked Mike White about having no fear. And he gave us the single best answer I've heard at a press conference from a player in a long time.
Yeah, the no fear thing has kind of bitten me in the butt a couple times because when I go to Highmark, I'm sure there's going to be a piece of my rib on the 30-yard line. But I did see Ed. Ed came up and apologized to me. And no, my one condition for signing here was I just can't be locker mates with Matt Milano. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, honestly, the ribs are good. The ribs are good. 2 years later, we finally healed.
It's perfectly balanced between Beane complimenting his toughness and then Mike being like, yeah, sometimes it's stupid that I'm this tough or that I'm trying to be this tough. I mean, watching that hit back was the hardest. I was telling my wife about it and telling her the funny thing that he said, part of my ribs still probably at the 30-yard line. That was the hardest you could legally hit somebody ever.
Yeah, it was textbook. Like, it's what the league wants to say is there's hard hits. This is how you do it without breaking a rule.
Yeah.
Except breaking ribs instead of rules.
Didn't go low, didn't go at his knees, didn't go at his head. Like it. And then again, for Mike to lean into it of like, yeah, man, like I'm going to go out to Highmark and part of my rib's going to be the 30. It was just perfect. And the response to my tweet about it was just everybody being like, I like the guy. And it was like instant check mark.
Beane was really positive about him.
Yeah.
That's what struck me. It's like, I know you brought him in. And I found it interesting that he says he's no check down Charlie.
Yeah.
He will make plays. We have discussed Mitch Trubisky on this team.
We have.
I didn't like the signing. You didn't like the signing. Good dude. Josh loves him. I don't see what you need in the backup. I know he can be kind of conservative. I just don't see Mitch as the guy when you need. Josh is out 2 weeks. You got to win one. I don't see Mitch making the plays. I just don't. And I'm not saying Mike White wouldn't make mistakes.
Oh, he'll make plenty.
But he'll also make plays.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And when we've talked about Mitch here on the channel, we've talked about the backup quarterback job and things like that. I'd like some upside. There's upside in Mike White. There are throws that Mike White can make that Mitch won't attempt. And that, again, I understand there are times when you need to be a check down Charlie. But when you need to make a play, I believe that Mike White could be that guy.
We're not talking about, Josh Allen is not Trent Edwards, but he does need to check down sometimes. That's when you've made plays, make plays. And then when it's there, you take it. I'm not saying you have to be a dumb player.
Yeah.
But man, I want to see somebody, and I've liked him. I liked him with the Jets.
Yeah.
I remember going when the Bills went down there once and he had been named player of the week before.
4 touchdowns on like the Thursday night. It was insane.
And the Bills just crushed him.
Yes.
In the next game. He was on the Jets.
Yeah.
And,
he's Mike White.
Right.
Just as much as we know about Mitch Trubisky, we also know about Mike White. But I think the ceiling of a performance is higher with Mike White than it is for Mitch Trubisky.
Interesting that he would come because I used it.
Interesting.
We are going to self-monitor our
crutch words.
Crutch words. That's it. We will be when Jenna's back for the next pod, we will debut how we are going to monitor ourselves. When I make the initial contribution, it'll be from that. Interesting. A line. But I think to myself, what are they going to do if Mike White comes here as the third quarterback,
Yeah.
understanding that Mitch may not be healthy for the first game, you
Right.
need somebody, but at the same time, you're Mike White, like you aren't guaranteed something, but you would think Mike White has at least started enough and been around enough to be the number 2 somewhere.
I agree.
And he signs in a place where it's a guaranteed one, and they brought this vet in. We'll see how it plays out.
Beane was also talking about the fact that they don't plan on any players coming back from IR. We can talk about some injuries in a second as we just kind of recap this shortened week for the Bills after the cuts are being made. Mitch threw in the individual drills. He didn't have pads on. He looked better on Wednesday than I had expected him to look. Beans also was saying, no, we don't expect any players going on IR. And he's like, he was asked again about Mitch, and he's like, we're going to give him every chance he can to avoid it and work through this. So like, I think the health is right now supersedes and trumps his play. If Mitch was healthy, I don't think we're having this debate. If Mitch went through the preseason and was fine, I don't think we're sitting there. But because Mitch got hurt on top of his play, I think the injury is the bigger concern of we need somebody that could go in, and it wasn't going to be Ben DiNucci.
They also said, or Beane said, we have to make sure Mitch can protect himself on the field. He can move properly. The backup quarterback is done getting any snaps now.
Correct.
Backups get no snaps. So they're going to be working to get Mike White up to speed.
Yeah.
My guess is going into any given week, he'd have a selection of plays.
That's what he kind of talked about.
If he had to play, he could go in there. I like Mike White better than Mitch Trubisky.
Same.
I don't want to say it clearer than that. I like what he has done and what he can do. I know Mitch has considerably more starts in the league.
Yeah.
It's also a bigger sample size of who he is.
Yeah.
Not a bad dude, not a bad guy. Josh's buddy. I keep saying that. But we're talking about if you needed him for a period of time, I think I'd have more faith in Mike White.
Mike White talks about his relationship with Josh. They went through the passing academy, the draft process, all of that kind of together. So they've always kind of known each other in that sense. And also the fact that because he's bounced around, he's now done, minus the Patriots, he's done the AFC East tour. He said that like he has some familiarity with Joe Brady and things like that. So you're right. He kind of said like, there's no more steps. Like I got to get up to speed. And he said, I know Joe will work to have, if God forbid he has to go in, they will have some plays that he feels comfortable enough doing. So
I don't know this for sure. I know the players get a few days off. Coaches rarely get any time off. My guess is Mike White is working with Joe Brady over these few days to get himself up to speed.
Switching to the wide receivers, because positive actually injury news is the fact that MVS and Curtis Samuel both practiced non-contact jerseys, or they were not in non-contact jerseys. So they were full participants in yesterday's practice. We record this on Thursday. The practice was Wednesday. I thought MVS looked good. He's got a new number, 15, fresh start. I love that for my guy. Absolutely. Dynamite 15, just a great wide receiver number.
And Curtis Samuel is my guy.
Yeah, they're both back.
So we're back into the opportunity for them to be the leading pass yardage guy on the team.
Yes.
And Jenna, she took Khalil Shakir.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm drafting him relatively early in the draft. I got my draft on Saturday with a bunch of Jersey guys. So they don't know
They
Khalil.
don't know it, yeah.
I think I can get him.
How many teams?
12.
7th or 8th.
I was going to say I might go 6th, depending on how the draft goes. I'm getting him on my team. I like the guy. I like him, even though, it's Jenna's pick.
Yeah. Beane was asked about the wide receivers because it was tough to evaluate, like we've said, and obviously the injuries in the preseason. Beane's obviously listening to the pod. We talked about how difficult it was to make some of those evaluations. He had this to say about where he thinks about this wide receiver room heading into the season.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a different group, losing Steph and Gabe from last year, but like where they're at, great chemistry, knowledge of the offense. They're all smart. They're interchangeable. I love how they're working together and all that. We've seen more of that in practice than games, as I was alluding to earlier. We have to go prove it. I mean, I can sit here all day and say I'm confident, which I am, but we got to go prove it. Talk is cheap at this point.
I think that's a fair answer. I think he's confident. He's confident in a lot of guys. We can get to one more after this, but they do have to put it on paper.
Isn't it funny? Like they started out camp. This was the 5. They started out the off season. This was really the 5 guys, right?
And then Claypool, Shorter, and Shavers.
But Shorter really did anything last year
Nope.
because he got hurt. Shavers was a practice squad guy who had shown little flashes, and Claypool had flamed out everywhere he'd been.
Yep.
This was the 5 that you would have put in, certainly in a few of them in pen, a couple in pencil, I think.
I agree.
And that's how it all ended up. They brought Shavers back. They did not bring Shorter back.
And where is Shorter, Michael?
I root for the guy. We talked to him. Nice kid.
Yeah.
Very personable. He just didn't play well enough for the Bills. That's what Beane said. So he got let go. They did not bring him on the practice squad. And he has signed on the practice squad of the Minnesota Vikings as a tight end. I did not look at him body type wise and say, that guy could play tight end. I understand sometimes teams label a player in that spot and he's just a pass catcher.
Yeah.
That's a surprise. I hope it works out for him.
Beane talked about the fact that you get opportunities, you get injured, you don't, he talked about Joe Andreessen, the fact of some guys are ready for their opportunity and some guys are not. And I said, like, Shorter had his shot and he didn't get it. But I never saw, and when Beane talked about him, he said, we brought him in and things like that, and they thought he was going to be a red zone target.
Yeah.
Which surprised me a little bit because
he's got some size.
I know he's got some size, but I don't see him as like Jimmy Graham, like some massive human that.
But he's tall, and they felt like he could go up and get it. Look, they end up drafting a guy who is the prototype for that.
Yeah.
Go up and get it.
Above the rim.
Above the rim. Yes, above the rim. We joke because a lot of you talk about Justin. I would love to see him make their roster, go ahead and play, but it's meritocracy in this league. He had a shot. Never been since maybe 2018 has there been a better shot for somebody to just come out and prove themselves on this roster. It didn't happen for him here. Maybe it'll happen somewhere else.
And we also got to talk to Joe Andreessen yesterday. The best quote he had, and I know he's still getting used to kind of this media circus that he's created in a good way. His play has caused this. The fact that he said, kind of laughed, like people were around the building congratulating me. And he's like, I didn't really know what to say. Like I kind of just laughed. And then he goes, it doesn't feel real.
Yeah.
Like this story continues in a great way. And Beane said he just checked all the boxes. He just kept checking the boxes. And then again, like I said, that would be another thing we're going to work on. But some people are ready for their opportunity and some aren't. And to throw him in the Pittsburgh game with the ones, he said that was going to be a big test. And he thought he passed the test that day.
As friend of the pod, Eminem says, ready for a shot. Here it is. So he was. When Beane talked about him, I thought, oh, he's on this team.
Yeah.
There was a part of me that thought 53, then they make some moves. You never know what happens. And you don't know what happens during the season.
Nope.
But they really like him. You've heard Sean talk about him.
Yep.
They really like him. So let's see how it plays out. He's going to be on the field on teams. I think his role in the actual defense would be little to none.
Break glass.
Right. I mean, Terrell Bernard gives a lot of snaps. He's going to be out there, but let's see.
But credit to you.
Credit to me. I said it right here, sitting in this seat. I said, Joe's going to make it. And I believe it was before everybody piled on the Buffalo Joe train. I had him by a couple of days. Then I'm hearing everybody else. Oh, I think Joe Andreessen's going to make it. Again, on the pod, Beane makes a decision. Just saying.
Credit to Mike.
Credit to me.
All right, one last thing we wanted to talk about today. Obviously, it was a shorter week, so we just had one day of media after the cuts were made. Beane was asked if he had thought about adding a kicker to the practice squad. Mike, you talked about it just before we started rolling. There aren't that many teams that keep kickers on their practice squad?
I looked back last year at the start of the practice squad. There were 5 kickers on teams' practice squads, 3 punters. I honestly just looked through them. I don't know if it was based on injury, whatever it was, or they weren't sure. They brought a guy back who had been in competition. That would have been what you would have thought if there was a competition at camp. I think they missed an opportunity to bring a young kicker in or a different kicker in during camp to get some snaps and to get some kicks. I will not be surprised if they're looking at kickers, working them out.
Yep.
I think the smart play, if need be, is to get one on the practice squad who you have. If you say 3 weeks into the season, I got to make a move.
I don't like that. I don't think that it's.
Are you really worried about his mental?
No.
state?
I think a spot on the practice squad for a guy that could actually play in a game is more important than having a backup kicker. Because I think you can get a kicker in on a Tuesday after Bass were to have a bad game, and then you would rep it with the holder. And because I know they talk about that.
Yeah.
Same holder, all these things. To me, I think you're handicapping your practice squad.
You're probably right because they want to have, Dan's right. They want to have the other players. I'm saying, I don't think the leash on Bass is short, but it's
ain't
not long. Yes.
Yeah. So Beane's answer to that question about, did you think about putting a kicker on your practice squad? This is what he had to say.
Not at this point, Jay. I mean, we've looked at all sorts of things. You know, T. Bass, I get the question. I do. I understand. If he had a short history here, probably would have. But if you look at his career, I know what's fresh in everybody's mind. I get it. We're all human. What have you done for me lately? And the end of the season, he'd be the first to tell you it was not the way it should go or he wanted it to go. But we're confident in him. His teammates are confident in him. And, you know, we got him the COVID year 2020. He got no preseason games. It didn't, like, I think we just got to relax and give him a chance and remain confident in him. And he knows. I think Sean said it after the game. Like, he doesn't need Twitter or the fans or whoever, like, telling him. He knows. He's his own worst critic. He works like crazy on his craft. Nobody wants it more than him. Nobody's working harder. And again, we're very confident in him. Obviously, he'll have to go out there and do it, though.
That comment of we have confidence in him, the team has confidence in him, seems like what an owner does right before he fires a head coach.
They do not want to be cutting Tyler Bass. They've invested in him. They have seen him be really good.
And I was going to make that point because I talked about it on the pod the last time about the fact of we are in that tunnel vision. We are in that, what have you done for me lately? The meritocracy. And because they're big kicks and they were missed, it's magnified. But it was one of those things when Beane said, like, even his point of like, hey, I know we're all thinking about what have you done for me lately? Because he listens to the pod. But the fact of, I was like, yeah, he has, and I made the point before, he has made more than he's missed. It's just the recent memory isn't good. Now that could continue to go downhill and we could say they didn't pull the plug soon enough and it could cost them a game. So be it. But I'm willing to give Bass the start of the season to see.
I'm less concerned about last year than I am at the way he kicked when we saw him at practice and we saw him at camp.
It was weird.
Not good. If he was knocking everything through and then missing the putts on the green, you'd say maybe it's just in his head. I don't think he's been hitting the ball well. It could just be got a little bit of the yips. It's not swinging right. And now he'll be back. I'm hoping for the guy. It'd be great for the Bills because that they do not want that hassle.
Yeah. I'm playing around to quite tomorrow. So I really hope I'm hitting the ball like Tyler Bass 2 years ago.
That's it. What are you going to shoot? Throw out a number. Irondequoit, very nice course in Rochester, right next to Oak Hill.
87.
Oh.
I've played it now. My buddy's a member. Shout out Corey.
Putting everything out?
No. No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
Close enough.
All right. 87.
Anything else?
We'll have that update. Just real quick, they signed Lewis Seen from the Vikings.
Yeah.
Unofficially. We'll see when they put him on the practice squad. It's a number 1 pick. Last pick of the round. Minnesota sort of overdrafted him there. Didn't work out. Taking a flyer on a guy. Somebody asked me if they think this has anything to do with Micah Hyde. No, this is not a Micah Hyde thing.
Beane was asked about Hyde yesterday by friend of the pod, Matt Beauvais.
He is on the Micah train. None of this would matter. If Micah wants to come back, open arms. We just haven't heard anything.
There was kind of a little pushback of like, why are you keep talking about Micah? Why do you keep talking about Micah? Beauvais makes a really good point because I was talking to him about it. I agree. Ask the question, but Beane keeps answering it in an honest way. If Micah Hyde came to the team tomorrow, he's the best safety on the team.
Yeah.
That's why it keeps getting brought up.
Well, he'd be a nice fit there.
So
starter.
For everybody that's like, stop asking about Micah to Beauvais.
Yeah.
He'd be the best safety on the team if he came to the roster.
But now it's all that stuff is out of the way. They're starting to play. It would be if needed.
Yep.
Like if there was an injury. So we'll see.
All right. The Bills are off now to the media up until Wednesday. We'll have a You Ask, We Answer again on Tuesday of next week. So be sure we'll make a post, tweet at us with comments and questions.
I'll also have what they're talking about in Phoenix with a reporter who covers the Cardinals. We'll have that out next week.
Content. We are now in regular season mode.
Yeah. Veteran day off.
Appreciate it as always. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, tell your friends as we continue. I've said next stop is 100,000. You get a plaque from YouTube when you get 100,000 followers. Yeah. I really want that. I think that'd look really good in my basement. Because it was, we would split it. It was our idea.
Yeah.
But next up, let's just set like 50. Let's get to 50 by the end of the season. So tell your friends.
Yeah.
Appreciate all the comments. I feel like a lot of the comments recently.
Why would anybody not subscribe?
I don't know.
You're watching.
Yeah.
To the end.
Appreciate it as always. From Mike Catalana, I'm Dan Fates. We'll catch you here next time on the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel.